Okay, everyone,
Shalom.
welcome. Good morning. And here's Dogbear.
Thanks for the wonderful introduction, Rabbi Cowland. So here we are, my friends.
Pleasure.
The beginning of the week or the end of the week, depending on how you see things. So this is how we start the week in Justify Land. We start the week by having the right kavanah. And kavanah means intention, comes from the word kivun, which means direction. Do you have the right direction in life? You're trying to go the right way. So the direction we're trying to go to are the four foundations of life. And the four foundations of life that I made up myself are physical health, emotional balance, mental strength, and spiritual awareness. Because really there are four levels of being: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And we really want to have all of them in line and aligned and healthy and good. So that's what we're doing. So we're going to start, like we always start, with a very quick stretch. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit up straight, like this. And you're going to do your shoulders. Shoulders back. That's good. And you can do your neck as well as you're doing your shoulders. Try not to hurt yourself. When you get to my age, you got to be very careful with these things. You go, Steve. That's how, this is Steve in a club in Colombia. There we go. Roll those shoulders. Okay, and then the head to the one side and then to the other side. And down and up. And arms in the air. Power pose. This is called power pose. Arms in the air. And down. And try and get your breath in line with your body movement. So as you're breathing in, once you're down, all your air is out. Once you're breathing in, and again, spread your wings, children. Yeah. Nice. And if you put now do the opposite, put your arm across your chest and pull it in. Get a bit of a stretch going. That's good. And the other way. Okay. So today what we're going to be talking about a little bit is emotional balance. And why we're talking about emotional balance is because we've reached the third week of the 7 weeks of counting the Aimeh. And we said that we left Egypt, we left all our limitations behind us. And our thoughts still chased us, and so we drowned them in the sea, and now we're in the desert, and we're going to receive the Torah. And we have 7 weeks counting towards the Torah, and there are 7 main Kabbalistic energies. And the first one was Chesed, which means loving kindness, unconditional loving kindness and giving to other people. The second one was Gevura, and Gevura we said was strength. And we spoke a little bit about mental strength last week. And some people think mental strength is the ability to fight your thoughts. But rather than to fight your thoughts, it's the ability to choose your thoughts. It's very hard to fight your thoughts. They're stronger than you. And they've been coming for many years. So we did a little meditation last week about being able to observe our thoughts and then choose which ones we want to hold on to and make significant. And this week is Tiferet. And Tiferet means a few things. A few of them that they mean is balance and harmony. So on the one side, we have this unconditional loving, giving flow, chesed. And then the next week, we have gevura, which is boundaries and strengths and limitations. You have to know when to apply which. And now this week, we've come to a place of harmony. It also means beauty. Tiferet means beauty. And we really find beauty in things that are harmonious. When things are in balance. And that's beautiful to our eyes. So what we will need to try and establish in our lives is emotional balance. And we can understand what emotional balance is by understanding what emotional imbalance is. So emotional imbalance is when you're either completely controlled by your emotions and overwhelmed by them, and live according to what your emotions tell you, or you're completely cut off from your emotions. And they maybe arise, but usually if you had any pain or trauma when you were younger, then, you know, I don't want to be connected to my emotions so much, because unfortunately for many people, emotions can be very painful. But Judaism really teaches there are very core emotions like joy and like love and like wonder, that we should be trying to feel as much as we can. So once again, just like our thoughts, when we have to start choosing thoughts, emotions are a little bit different. Emotions, once they arise, you can't just acknowledge them and choose them. You've got to feel them. Emotions are there to be felt. So if you do feel anger and hatred and anxiety and dis-ease and worry and regret and guilt, if you feel those things, you have to give yourself the space to feel them and say, it's okay, I'm not bad for feeling this way. This is how I feel. And give yourself acceptance. However, the strength of this is to not then be completely overwhelmed by that emotion. And the way you get overwhelmed by your emotion is when you accept anxiety or jealousy, then you're just feeling it. But when you start thinking about it and judging it and saying, I don't want this, I don't like this, I'm bad for this, or blaming other people for this, you start feeding the emotions, because your thoughts feed your emotions. So what we're actually trying to do is get to a space where we can feel our emotions, but try not to think about them or what caused them. So I actually spoke to someone the other day who split up with her boyfriend after many years. And she wanted to move on, but she had to feel the pain. So I helped her try and do a meditation to feel her pain and feel her loneliness, but without keeping on saying, if only it was different, and if he treated me different, and if we were still together, and to not be thinking about your emotions, but to be experiencing your emotions, feeling your emotions without thinking about your emotions. That's what we're going to try and do today. We're going to do a little meditation. So like always, we're going to sit up straight. We're going to close our eyes gently, and we're going to take a few deep breaths. And then an emotion is going to arise. Usually, as soon as you close your eyes, you'll feel something. And when that emotion arises, just observe it. Observe it. But what we're going to do now, with thoughts, we said you're going to observe it and acknowledge it and let it go. But with this emotion, I want you to try and just feel it. You're not trying to let it go. You're just trying to feel the emotion. And this is what we're going to say. I feel happy, or I feel a bit tense. I feel whatever I feel. And then after you do that, you're going to say, and that's okay. And that's okay. And if your mind starts wandering into why you feel this way, or whose fault it is, or how you can escape this feeling, or how you can keep the feeling if it's a positive feeling, just smile at your mind and come back to trying to just experience whatever feeling you're feeling and saying, that's okay. It's okay to feel this way. And know that you don't have to be controlled by this feeling. You just experience the feeling. You don't have to act based on this feeling. You can just sit and experience it, and it's okay, and you're okay. And maybe you also have mixed emotions, and they're all over the place. You feel a little bit peaceful, but you also feel a bit worried. You can feel many things. So just be open to feeling what you feel, and that's okay. And also know that Tiferet means balance, it means beauty. So there's beauty in feeling. There's a beauty in feeling sad, and there's a beauty in feeling lonely. If you can just experience it, it makes life very deep and very colorful. As long as we don't let it then control us and weigh us down. We can just experience the colors and tell ourselves that's okay. Okay, I think it's time for our next speaker. So have a wonderful week of balance and self-acceptance.
Thank you, Dovber. I think we're going to our next speaker now, who's Rivka Pesha. Rivka's new to the Power Hour, and she's going to give us 10, maybe 15 minutes on some slightly deeper, more esoteric ideas. Welcome, Rivka Pesha. Very happy to have you here.
Hi, thank you. Deeper than Dope Bear, I don't know. We'll try. Hi, everyone. This is so cool. Okay, coming at you from Jerusalem. This is my lovely garden behind me. I want to share some really cool ideas with you, and I'm going to try to do it in just a few minutes. So first of all, I just want to invite you all. I just want to say welcome to probably one of the craziest times of your life right now, so far. It's a really, really intense time right now in all of the world. And it's also kind of, it's also very interesting. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, if you're tapped in and if you're on this podcast or if you're on this, this webinar right now, you're probably a tapped in person. So if you're tapped in, you're probably noticing that some very intense challenges are coming up, or you're having to make decisions in your life that you probably haven't had to make before, or you're having to deal with maybe somebody's just a little bit more annoying than normal, or you're feeling a little bit more annoying than normal, or things that are coming up. And I just want you to know that that's a very, very normal thing for this time, because right now it's happening in history. We're tapping into this like portal of time that has been from ages past, that is happening right now. And it's a time in history that is ripe for challenges, which also means that it's ripe for changing and for working on yourself and working through those challenges. So I kind of want to give you a little bit of an intro of what that's about, and maybe a little bit of how to actually tap into that and how to actually use this energy to really transform. And because what are we here for, right? We're here to be the best version of ourselves we can be. So let's get started. There's so much to say. So the question is really what are we going to do with all this energy, and how do we tap into it, and how can we make that transformation possible? So first, we really kind of just need to, in 2 seconds, figure out what the heck is going on. What is so hard about this particular time? We just had Passover, right? So from that first day of Passover, starting with the first day of Passover, there's these 50 days. And according to Kabbalah, these 50 days are the 50 days of the most transformational time that you could possibly go through. Now, any time in your life is a good time for transformation. Any time in your life is a good time to work on yourself. That's for sure true. But you should know that in Judaism, we don't believe that time is a line. It's not like linear. And time is also not circular. We believe that it's both, that it's like a spiral. I meant to bring a slinky, one of my son's slinky that I was going to show you, but imagine I'm holding a slinky, and And let's just take like any day in the Jewish calendar. Let's take your birthday. You know, there's a famous rabbi who says that your birthday is the day that the universe decided the world could not go on without you. The universe could not go on without you specifically. So you were born on that particular moment in that particular day. So let's take your birthday, okay? So there's like an energy that Eunice needed to come into. So even though you pass through time, and maybe you pass through 10 years, you pass through 15 years, you pass through 20 years, however many years you've been passing through, and you go up this sort of spiral. But on the day of your birthday, you're sort of tapping into that one time on the spiral that's in line, in direct line with the day that you started, your beginning. And it's kind of cool because it means that whenever your birthday comes around, or whenever Passover comes around, or whenever Rosh Hashanah comes around, or whenever anything in particular, you know, a big moment in your life comes around, your graduation, something that was big for you comes around, it means you can tap into that original energy of where it all started. And you can begin again. Of course, you can begin again at any moment. You know, that same rabbi also said that, he also said that at any moment you can say, I declare a new beginning. You know, today's not going well. I declare a new beginning. And you could do that at any moment. But there are specific times in Jewish calendar that are just ripe for the making. And this is a time that's one of those times for really working on yourself. There's something, you know, a character trait you've been really wanting to work on, or something you feel stuck in. This is the time to unlock that stuckness, to sort of like, here's the key. The keys are here for you. So how can we tap into those keys, and how can we find those? Because I don't know about you, but I lose my keys all the time. I literally ask my husband to call my phone like 50 times a day. I'm like, wait, I'm on my phone. I tend to lose things. So this is a time to find things. This is a time to find those keys and really, really tap in. So, okay. I just want to mention one thing real quick, is that just like I said, it gets a little bit more challenging at this time, and I'm sure that this is something that you can all tap into and totally all understand, is that usually when you want to work on something, or when something's being called upon you to be worked on, things get a little bit harder in that area, right? Because if you want to go to the gym, right, and it's a leg day, and you go and you eat an ice cream cone and you maybe do a few sit-ups, you're not going to get your legs done, right? Okay, so when it's a leg day, you're going to be doing lunges, and you're going to be doing squats, and you're going to be working out your legs. So too, you know, they say that your body, your soul wears your body the way your body wears your clothes, right? So everything in the physical world is really a symptom of the spiritual world. So everything in physicality is like a garment of the spirituality. So you can learn something from what's happening in your physical world, and you can extrapolate from that something that's happening in the more spiritual world. There's a spiritual root to whatever's happening in your physicality. And so too, there's those same spiritual principles that when you're dealing with something in the physical, you're going to be challenged, and you're going to be working harder on it. So that's just that. You just have to know that things are going to get a little bit hard for you. If you really want to work on yourself, things are going to get a little hard, but it's going to be really good. So let's get there. Okay. Passover, right? What the heck is Passover all about? And I'm sure that you've learned a lot about Passover, and you know, we've read the Haggadahs, and I remember growing up and going to my grandmother's and being like, I just want to get to the matzah already. Where's the bread? And I remember those, but I also always remember that moment of the Haggadah being, we were slaves. It's the one thing that I remember, is that we were slaves. It's the only thing that I could really remember. And what does that even mean? And it even says in the Haggadah, you're supposed to remember that you were a slave in Egypt. You're supposed to be as if you were leaving Egypt today. But like, can we just be realistic with each other for a second? How can we actually feel like we're really leaving Egypt? Like, what does it mean to really leave Egypt? Because, okay, it's hard. Quarantine is hard. This coronavirus thing is hard. It can be scary. It can be difficult. It's not easy to stay in your house 24/7, you know, for some people who are really like taking it very seriously. It's not hard. It's not easy to do, you know, it's not easy to be a medical worker at times like this. There's a lot of things in our lives that are hard, but can we really say we were slaves? I mean, in Egypt, we were oppressed to like the nth degree. Like, such a level of oppression, such a level of slavery, such a level of brokenness. It wasn't just that it was hard physical labor, it was hard spiritual labor. It was hard on every level of our being. You know, we have 4 levels of being. We have physicality, we have our emotional world, we have our mental world, and we have our spiritual world. And all 4 of those bodies, all 4 of those levels of self were completely and totally enslaved. It even says that we had fallen to this 49th level of like just like we were done. The 49th level of being as far away from holiness and self-actualization, the farthest level away. That's how far we were. And it was really difficult. So how can we say we're there now? So there's an interesting thing. The word Egypt is actually, the word in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. And the root of that word is Mitzar. And the word Mitzar actually means a constriction, right? So in Egypt, what does it mean that we were in Egypt? It means that we were in a place of constriction. We were in a place of being so not ourselves. And I'm sure, and I know that we can all relate to times when we said no and we wish we had said yes, and times when we said yes and we wish we had said no, and times when we felt compelled to do things that didn't feel like they really sat with our inner core, with who we really were, and times that we went along with, well, this is what everyone else is doing, or went against it because when my defense mechanisms were telling me no, but really I'm like, well, I could have actually done that, and I wish I had let myself do that. We can all relate to it, and I'm on just like, I work with actually my day job is I work with teens at risk, and I watch them time and again. They built up these amazing defense mechanisms that actually helped them survive through what they went through when they were younger. But now those same defense mechanisms are now actually holding them back from being able to grow further. And I help them on a daily basis break down those walls and break down those Mitzrayims, those constrictions. So what does it mean that we were in Mitzrayim? Passover happened, and then those 50 days from the beginning, the first day of Passover, really 49 days starting from the second day of Passover, 49 days of getting out of Mitzrayim. Because what happened? We got out of Mitzrayim. I'm like, what's the time here, guys? This is tough. What happened? We got out of Mitzrayim, and it was a total freebie gift. You've all heard of the 10 plagues before, right? There were these plagues raining down, and they didn't affect the Jewish people. They didn't affect us because we were in slavery and we were being saved. So what happened? There's like these 10 plagues, and we're like on our way out of Egypt, and the sea splits, and there's like miracles upon miracles upon miracles, and we're just like, we're running out. We're just out. It's like a freebie. I'm going to take you out of Egypt. So we get out of Egypt, and then what happens? Now we need 49 days. We need 49 levels to get ourselves out of Egypt, right? Because we got out of Egypt, and now we need the Egypt out of us. I'm from Alabama, and they say you could take the girl out of Alabama, but you can't take the Alabama out of the girl. But the truth is that you can, if you really wanted to. I don't want to. I love where I'm from. But if there's something that's in you that you feel like you're holding on to, that's really, you feel like it's in you, okay, you can get out. These girls, these teens at risk that I work with, they got out. They were taken out of their situation, but now they got to take that situation out of themselves. And maybe you can't relate on such like a teen at risk, like these girls have some crazy stories, but everybody has a story. Everybody has a Mitzrayim they're coming from. Everybody does. Now here's something really cool. Mitzrayim, Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, so to speak, is mentioned in the Torah, you guessed it, 50 times. 50 times. Do you know why? Because Nesiva Shalom, who's this really cool rabbi guy, he says that there are 50 levels of Egypt within ourselves that we have to get out. So it's mentioned 50 times in the Torah because there are 50 Egypts that we have to leave within ourselves. And that's why these 50 days from the first day of Passover, these 50 days is such a time of us leaving our own Egypt, leaving our own constrictions, figuring out what those places within us that feel constricted and getting out. 49, so the 50 is the first day where it's the freebie where we get out. And then the rest of the 49 are the 49 days where now we get ourselves out. The one day is like all of them combined. First we get out, and now we have to take it out of us. So this is the time we're in right now. And you don't have to feel like it's too late. We're already 2 weeks in, because each week there's 7 times 7, there's 7 days in a week, and there's 7 weeks. So that last week has all of the weeks in it, right? And also remember what that rabbi said, you can begin at any moment. You can say, I declare a new beginning. So any time's a good time to start. But these days in particular, the next few weeks are really, really amazing. And I hope to be able to go through that with you, of like what each week is and the power, the spiritual power of each week, of what to get out of. Just one last thought. Do I have a moment for one last thought? Is that 49 is also a beautiful number. There's a lot of cool things about this number 49, and we can go into that another time. But 49 is the gematria, which means that all of the letters, all the Hebrew letters have a different numerical value. And And the numerical value of the letters Lev Tov is 49. Lev Tov means a good heart, a good heart. Because what is this 49 days? It's all about us refining ourselves, refining our heart, refining ourselves, refining who we are, the place that pumps life into us, right? The place that reoxygenates the blood. It puts literally breath of life into who we are, and vivifies our being. I'm sure Dov Bear talked about breath. It vivifies our being. It makes us who we are. That is the point of these 49 days, to cultivate a good heart, to cultivate be the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And there's no time like the present to really harness that and to channel that. So I highly recommend that even if I never see you again, that you somehow Google somewhere Spheros app. You could spell it any way you want, however it sounds. It's not it's a Hebrew word, so try to figure out how it sounds. Sephiros, sometimes with an F instead of PH. And you can find there's some really cool stuff online, and also I hope I get to go through it with you more. And I bless us all to really be able to tap into that really incredible power.
Thank you, Rivka Pasha. You're going to see everyone soon. You're going to see everyone soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, guys, we have 5 minutes. We're 5 minutes with me now until Alana joins. So I wanted to, we've been speaking a lot about kind of thinking and how your thinking works and how it creates your reality. And I wanted to share a couple of experiences over the last few days and see if you guys are with me on it. And that is when it comes to food and exercise. Most of the time when we think about, when we talk about thinking, talk about it more in terms of, oh, you make your reality, and the thoughts that you have in line with your experiences create your experience itself. And that's very true. And then, we'll say, oh, when I get angry, I could choose a different thought. I could be kind. And when I get frustrated, I could choose a different thought. I could be compassionate. I will tell you a story of just which I think is even kind of more practical. There's a friend of mine who lost a couple of 100 pounds without ever going on a diet, actually. And what happened was as follows. He was learning about the idea of his thinking, was learning about how his thoughts create his own reality. And this is a guy, I hope to actually have him come on the Power Hour once and share his story with everybody. But he was a guy, so he would, obviously ate quite a lot, yeah. And one day it was like 11 o'clock at night, and he was going to the fridge, excuse me, to get a sandwich before he went to sleep. And he'd been learning about all this thinking, and it suddenly hit him that, like, he related it to, like, it's 11 o'clock and I'm about to go to bed. And he connected that to the idea of, like, I should have a sandwich. Now, that may sound really silly, but I think it's actually very deep. And he stood at the fridge and he said to himself, there's nothing intrinsic about 11 o'clock or about me going to bed that requires me to have a sandwich. I can choose to go to sleep hungry. I can choose to go to sleep without this food. I'm not particularly hungry. I can choose to go to bed having had this food. And he experienced what he describes as kind of distance from what he previously saw as a compulsion. And as he experienced the role of his thinking in the creation of his decisions. And from that point on, when he felt hungry, he opened up his mind. Instead of, like, I'm hungry, I need potato chips, it would be, I'm hungry, I need a glass of water, I'm hungry, I need an apple or a vegetable. He opened his mind to the fact that other choices were legitimate. And instead of feeling compelled by his food habits or by his exercise habits, he's run marathons, he's a regular long distance runner, and lost a tremendous amount of weight. So whenever he speaks, people always come up to him and say, like, yeah, okay, fine, but what was your diet? What was your diet? What did you change? Did you get away from refined sugars and from processed carbs? And he's always like, that's really not what happened. What happened was I created distance between me and my food habits. I just created a distance. I didn't connect them so much anymore. So what I wanted to recommend for everyone is take a particular habit that you're not comfortable with, okay? It could be food, it could be exercise, too much exercise, too little food, too much food, too little exercise. It could be work, being a bit of a workaholic. It could be thoughts in your head, anxieties, panics, freakouts. You know, I have, you know, like someone has like, you know, six undergraduate degrees, so he's always got something to fall back on. You know, it's like so much fear, right? But it's not reality. It's not reality. So take the area that you think that where you see that you're, I'll use the word very thinky, where you are, where you have, where your interpretation of what's needed kind of takes over the experience for yourself, and try and just experience what it feels like to take a step back from it and say, hang on, what are the alternative thoughts that I could have about this situation? What are the alternative thoughts I could have about this moment? What are those alternatives? And if you allow yourself, and this is the really important point, to not panic at that point, but actually allow yourself to experience a different thought, one that makes you feel warm and connected and happy, right? If you're able to do that, then as I say in Hebrew, like the asimon, the penny will drop. Like, excuse me, I say in Hebrew, nafal asimon, the penny will drop. Because once you experience some distance from your thoughts, and you appreciate that you can choose different ones, and that you can still have the same experience, everything shifts. Everything shifts, because stuff that was previously you thought was happening to you, you begin to realize, well, I'm kind of choosing it in some way as well. And that makes a really huge difference in terms of your mental health and mental situation, right? So try and do that. Try and kind of take the idea, if you possibly can, an area that you feel really challenged in, and experience that distance. I'm just going to hand over to Alana now, just 1 second. Here she is. Your friend.
Need to connect. Okay. Hi. Should do this way. Yeah. Oh, no, that's not working. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Okay. Hello. All right. So conversation piece for today. Hi, everybody. Is compromise, actually. Compromise. So now the truth is, anybody in a relationship understands how important compromise is, but I'll tell you a secret. I really hate the word. I find compromise like a very scary, dangerous word. So we're going to talk about where compromise works, where compromise doesn't work. And I think you'll find that this is applicable whether you're in a relationship or whether you are contemplating going more seriously into a relationship. So why do I hate the word compromise? Okay, so firstly, often when I'm hear people saying like, you have to compromise, I'm compromising, I need to make a compromise, what they're not really distinguishing is between a healthy compromise and a compromise that just asks too much. Okay, so we have to make that distinction, because there is a point where compromise is really important in a relationship, otherwise you're being stubborn and demanding and difficult. And there's a point where compromise actually just becomes too much of a sacrifice, and it's a deeper problem, and compromise isn't really the right solution to that, you know. So how do we distinguish between, and then we'll talk about a healthy definition once you decide you can compromise, okay? But first of all, how do you determine whether you need to be compromising or whether it's just asking too much? So, you know, we have spoken really about shared values, and what we'll find is that within a given shared platform, you can experience compromise. Compromise means I want this and you want that, and again towards the end we'll talk about how to meet in the middle in a healthy way. But sometimes what you'll find is that the middle, and the middle doesn't have to be 50%, sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes it's 20-80, but the middle needs to be within that shared platform. If the only way to compromise is to move to a completely different platform entirely, where there is no middle space at all, then you're not really looking at a compromise, you're looking at a sacrifice. So let's give examples of this so you know what I mean. Let's say we're looking to paint the living room, okay, and I like blue and you like red. Yeah, okay, so how do we compromise? Purple. Okay, we compromise with purple. When we might both hate purple, so we might decide to repaint the living room every year and do 1 year blue and 1 year red. We might do one blue wall, one red wall. We might go for, blue with a splash of. We might do a blue background and red paintings. We could do lots of different sorts of things, but somewhere there is a middle ground, and it could be that the reason that I can't do blue is because I have terrible trauma about blue, and actually, it's got to be so close to red you can't even imagine, but like it can't, like it just can't be blue. Like I'll do my best to meet you, but actually it's hardly even halfway because blue is off the charts, and we can still find a way to come. We can still find a middle ground over here. But let's say I want to have no kids and you want to have 10 kids. What's the compromise? It's not 5 kids, is it? No, it's not. And it's not even 2 kids, because think about it. I want to have no children and you want to have a large family. So I have to ask of you to completely forego your dream of a large family. And you have to do something much worse for me. Even if we decide 2 rather than 5, you're asking me to have children when I don't want any. That is no longer called compromise. That is just called sacrifice. I have to completely rethink my life to a point where my meeting you halfway it's not halfway, it's not a third of the way, it's a completely different life to the one that I would imagine. And if that is what the middle looks like, and even if I just have 1 kid, yeah, then you've really compromised, right? But it's still asking too much of me, because there is an infinite world of a difference between not having children and having 1. It's an infinite world of a difference. It's a commitment to parenthood. So at that point, sometimes we have to say, maybe what we have to ask is, if the only way to compromise is to reach such a level of sacrifice, then maybe we have to consider that we're not on the same platform in terms of our values, and that there is no middle or 2080 or 3070 or even 1090, because there is no middle in this particular thing. We want things that are so different to each other that maybe we have to rethink how we're going to do this. So what we can do is we can make a decision. One of us can make a decision to forego that value for the sake of the relationship. The person might say, gosh, I never really wanted to have kids, but you know what? I wanted to have like a single life and make lots of money and have my independence, my freedom. That's the values. And maybe I would consider foregoing that for this relationship. But then I have to know the following, and this is really crucial. I have to know that I am now completely responsible for the foregoing that I have undertaken. This was not a compromise. This was not a middle. This was me saying I have to forego 1 value for the sake of the relationship. And that is a sacrifice to some degree. It's a big sacrifice, but the person making it has the right to make it, but they have to take responsibility for it. What is a terrible shame is when one person does that and then they spend the rest of their lives really resenting, blaming, and punishing the person who they feel is the source of their having to forego the life that they wanted. And then, the whole relationship is ruined because of the blame and the resentment in any case. That doesn't work. You have to say, I am now recognizing that in order to have this relationship, in order to move forward in this relationship, something has to give. And if it can't give, then maybe the relationship has to give. But if it's me who's going to give for the sake of the relationship, I own responsibility for that decision. Once you own responsibility for that decision, you can embrace the decision rather than hating the decision and putting the blame on the other person, because that blame will often ruin the relationship more than the compromise did in the first place. You might really enjoy the kid that you didn't think you were going to have and still hate your spouse because it's their fault that you've got kids. And that will, again, really it is so against the point. So let's do this in order. When we are talking about compromise, we want to make sure that we are on enough of a shared value platform that there is some form of middle. If there isn't, then often that is a reason to say, is this relationship too much of an ask? Am I having to sacrifice too many of my values in order to have this experience? And that can be a very painful question, but it's often worth facing that question. If I either want the relationship or I'm already completely committed to the relationship, then what I need to do is I need to really embrace what we would call the hashkacha. There's a reason why this has happened. There's a reason that you're in a relationship with this person and this has come about. It's time to embrace something different to what you had expected, or to leave, really depending on how serious the question is. But either way, you know, you're taking responsibility for that next move. And in taking responsibility and therefore making a commitment to not spend your life blaming that person, you've got a much better chance of adjusting to this new reality, either again outside of the relationship or in the relationship, but different to how you saw your life. With that responsibility taken, you can, yes, have a different life to what you expected, but actually be able to enjoy it. Okay, so that's sort of the order of things. Now, when you're in the relationship and you are compromising, let's also talk about how to do compromise well and how to do compromise badly. I had this idea many years ago from a good friend of mine, Andrea Silverman in London, and I give her credit for this beautiful idea. What people, again, back to this blame concept, what people will sometimes do is say, wow, well, I really wanted a blue room, but I guess I'm going to have a stupid purple room. Okay, so they meet in the middle, but every step that they take towards the middle is a begrudging sense of, I wanted this, and because of you, I have to give up, I have to give in. So they meet in the middle, but the middle isn't a happy middle. It's a middle of, I never really wanted to be here. So there's a nicer way to do compromise. And it's not, I wish I was here, but I guess I'll give you what you want. It's to look at it as follows. I really love you and I really care about you. And I see that there's something really important happening for you over here. There's a need that you have. But because I love you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make as far a walk towards your needs, your wants, what's important to you as I possibly can. And that's going to take me from zero, my corner, on a 70% trajectory towards you. And you're going to be in your corner and you're going to look at me and you're going to say, wow, I really love you and I really want to give everything to you, but this is like a hard one for me. So I'm going to come as far as I possibly can. And I'm not going to make it get as far as 70% because this is too hard for me to go that far away from my position on. I'm going to come all the way to 60%. So what you have is, you have like somebody who made it 70%, 20% across the halfway mark, and somebody who made it to 60%, right? That's like 10% across the halfway mark. And you have this overlap gap. And in your overlap gap, that's where you're going to find your purple, your lilac, your paint the walls every year, your one red wall, one blue wall, your red wall and blue paintings, your blue paint. That's where you're going to find your overlap. But it's going to be a sense of, I came towards you because I love you and I appreciate how far towards me you have come. So when I look at this decision, I don't think of how much I was deprived of. I think actually of how much I love you and I came towards you, and how much you love me and you tried to come towards me. And in that middle space, there's a space of love and consideration for the other. So when we don't have what we originally, so we put away our old pictures because we found a space, so we've met in the middle, and that meeting in the middle is something that we can do with a tremendous amount of love. And again, in some situations, one person can go almost all the way to the other person, and the other person is having a really hard time, but they're doing their best, to come as close as they can. And it could be that it's, it's not fair, but there'll be different situations where different people have different amount of flexibilities. But if my mentality is, I care enough to come away from my position towards yours, and so do you. That middle is a love middle. It's not a place of resentment. It's not a place of blame. It's a place where we found each other. And then again, this sense of, maybe now that I'm in a relationship with you, the space I wanted, my original picture of how things should be, of how the room should look, maybe that is not something, that's definitely not something I should be holding on to, because you're in my life now, and because of you, that picture has to change. And my ability to be flexible enough to bring you into my picture, or to bring my picture into your needs, that's much more meaningful than the original picture that I had, which was a selfish, stubborn, it was all about me. I wanted to save every penny that we ever owned so we could have a big retirement fund. And you love to spend. I am stingy and you're irresponsible. Okay, let's work on what our middle will look like, so that I can learn from you to enjoy life, and you can learn from me to have a little bit of, a backup plan. And let's enjoy a middle. I never thought about spending money with pleasure and enjoying my money, and you never thought about saving money because you just like spend it before you even earned it. So we bring something into that central place, and in that central place we can actually recognize that what the other person brings is something that might not even a better idea than our original idea. It's a place of middle. It's not a place of giving up. I don't have to look at you every time you spend money and think, gosh, you're spending my money. And you don't have to look at me every time I'm saving money and think, gosh, you're so stingy. I can actually say we've enriched this. We've enriched this middle ground and this middle idea. And at that point, compromise doesn't hurt us. But again, if there is no central ground and what's being demanded of us is just too much, it's just we have to throw our value completely out of our picture entirely. And that's time to say, well, is this a value I can forgo? Does this relationship demand too much? You know, and if I do decide to forgo it, then I'm responsible for that, and I'm gonna love you and embrace you entirely, and not look at you as a source of my misery for the rest of my life. Okay, so I hope that is something for everybody in terms of where you are in relationships. And I think that's my time. Let me just check with Jamie. Jamie? Okay, great. So I'll pass you on to Avadia.
Hi, thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Ilana. How's everyone doing today? Okay, we're going to be continuing with what we spoke about the last few weeks. What I was going through was the 5 competencies of what we call emotional intelligence, which are the things that really matter and make a difference. And the 2 that we already did were self-awareness and self-regulation. And the next 2 we're going to do are empathy and social skills. But this one that we're doing now is really going to be the core of them. It's really going to be what I think is a really powerful one. And we're going to do a bit of meditation in order to make that work. So this one that's right in the middle and central to everything is motivation. Now, motivation is something everyone struggles with. Everyone has people who, compared to them, when we look at them, they seem highly motivated. And we all have other people who we look at who seem to be undermotivated. And it's all on a scale. But what we have to do is look at ourselves. And most of us will admit, if we really look at ourselves, that sometimes we are undermotivated or we're not as motivated as we want to be. So what is going to be the key to motivation? That's what we're going to look at right here. So there's actually a Jewish teaching, a Mishnah in Ethics of the Fathers, that says, Ezehu chacham haro'eh et hanolad, meaning, what is the definition of wisdom? Who is a wise person? A person who sees the end result. A person who can see today the result in the future of today's actions. And that's really going to be a key to motivation, because when we struggle with motivation, it's always going to be motivation to do something that we at one point were more motivated to do than we are now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. Meaning, I have a great idea. I'm going to say, I'm going to start running every day. Now, there's a reason I chose to do this. Now, what's going to happen is at first I'm going to be very excited about it, and then over time, the excitement is going to wane and it's going to become more and more of a burden. Ultimately, why does it become harder than it was before? Not because it actually has become harder, but because I've lost sight of that goal. So here's going to be the meditation for motivation. When we find ourselves lacking motivation for something, what we need to do is visualize ourselves, right? Haro'eh et hanolad, see the end result. So the key is going to be to see ourselves powerfully in front of ourselves, living the results of that. So if my thing is to go running every day and right now it doesn't feel good, it's going to be to meditate on the image of myself being a person who has run every day for a year and what that looks like. You see these guys, sometimes I'm driving along or walking along or on the bus and I see these guys running, right? And they really look like they're struggling and I empathize. And sometimes I'll be somewhere beautiful, I'll be driving on a country road and I'll see a guy running alongside me on the road and just bouncing along. That look some people have. It just looks effortless and they're there in nature and they're experiencing, you know, I'm looking out of the window and I'm seeing the trees and the hills and the mountains, and I'm seeing someone just running along, and they're just fully in nature and they look completely relaxed. So I think to myself, wow, imagine that feeling. Imagine being able to do that. So the meditation for motivation is going to be to meditate on that and to think about, to visualize yourself feeling that way. And that goes with anything. So if it's a project you're working on professionally, there's a reason you started that project. So to visualize that project being completed successfully, to really just stop and see it, to visualize whatever it is, your marriage, your relationships being where you want them to be, and how this is a step towards that. So that's going to be a really key thing. And that's a very simple meditation, to just close your eyes, to breathe in, and to see that thing happening, to see yourself being truly successful in that way. And then as you breathe out, to focus on what you need to do today and only today in order to keep that happening, in order to make that a reality, what that small step is today. And again, to breathe in the vision of that thing happening in its full fruition, in its fullness, and to breathe out with what it costs, what I need to do today. That's going to be the meditative state we need to get in. Another key is going to be to just making sure that we clear away as many of the things as possible that are distracting us from it. So that's going to be the key to motivation and the meditation on that. Just want to speak for a minute about, you know, I could go on with that, but I just want to let everyone know about some of the exciting things we're going to be doing moving forward with Justifi, with this hour. And so you're all free to please email me about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to be giving you more options of deeper learning in what you're really interested in. So this hour is going to be carrying on as it's been going. We're going to still do this hour every week with Jamie, with Ilana, with Dovber, with myself, and you know, try to have you know, different guest speakers and look at a few possible new speakers. But what we're also going to be doing, which is going to be really exciting, is after this, several of the speakers are going to be giving a 1-hour class for 4 times. They're going to be running a 4-part course, which you can sign up for. And then what that would mean is, for example, you know, Ilana will be doing a course on relationships. Jamie is going to be doing a fantastic course on personal and professional entrepreneurship. So we're going to be sending out the details soon, but if you want them right now, please email me and I will send you the details. And then what you'll do is you will choose which 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 courses really appeal to you. And most of them are a 4-part course. There'll probably be another 4-part course afterwards. And then you'll be put on the list, and then you'll really get a chance to get really deep, really hands-on, have a lot more interaction, and really be focused on the thing you want to do, which should be highly motivating. So that's the idea, and I really encourage you, you know, it's very exciting. We've put together a great program there. So I'd encourage you to email me and get the details about that and sign up. We are going to limit spaces on each of those courses, so the sooner you sign up for them, the better. So that's it for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and look forward to seeing you next Sunday at the same time. If anyone has feedback, comments, suggestions, again, please email me. Hope this time has been convenient for people. And so next Sunday, it's going to be this at the same time, 10:30 New York time, East Coast time. And then those other courses will be starting. We will be sending out those details soon. So thank you all so much. Stay healthy and stay safe.